She expected the human to kill her, but he did something completely unexpected. The restraints were tight enough to leave marks. Zaravel knew that much without looking. She had been in human custody for 11 minutes, and every second felt like swallowing glass. The room was small. Metal walls, one door, one human. He was sitting across from her, not standing over her the way her commanders had described, not holding a weapon to her throat, not screaming. He was just sitting, elbows on his knees, watching her the way someone watches a storm through a window, like it was something worth paying attention to. She had been caught pulling data from a restricted human relay station near the Cassini belt. Caught clean. No argument, no room for negotiation. The Velhari High Command had been clear in their briefings. Humans do not take prisoners from intelligence operations. They especially do not take Velhari prisoners. And the two species had been locked in low-grade conflict for 3 years, and the rules of that conflict were understood by everyone. You get caught, you get terminated. Zaravel had made peace with that before she ever boarded the infiltration pod. She was a soldier. She knew the cost. What she had not made peace with was the waiting. The human had not said a single word since dragging her into this room. She studied him the way she had been trained. Male, late 20s by Velhari estimation, of medium build, which meant nothing because humans were deceptively strong regardless of size. Brown skin, close-cut hair, a jaw that looked like it had been in at least one argument with a hard surface and lost. His uniform had no rank markings she could read, but the way he moved suggested he was not junior personnel. He was reading something on a small screen in his hand. Actually reading it. She had been a prisoner for 11 minutes, and he was reading. Zaravel felt something she did not have a clean word for. Not fear exactly. Fear she understood. This was adjacent to fear, but tilted sideways, like standing on a slope and not being sure which direction was down. She flexed her fingers against the restraints. Composite polymer, not metal. Harder to break and smarter. The humans had clearly learned from early Velhari escape attempts. The human looked up, not at her restraints, at her face. "Does it hurt?" he asked. His Velhari was imperfect. The tonal markers were slightly off, turning his question into something that meant both "does it hurt" and "is it pressing incorrectly," which were related but not identical concepts. Still, he had asked in her language. Zaravel did not answer. The human nodded like that was fine, like silence was a perfectly reasonable response that he had fully anticipated. He set down the screen and leaned back in his chair. "My name is Cole," he said, still in Velhari. "No, not my rank. Just my name. You were running a data pull on Relay Station 11 Delta. We both know that. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, and I'd prefer you didn't either." She watched him. "You were good," he said. "Really good. We almost didn't catch the intrusion signature. Another 40 seconds, and you'd have been gone clean." He paused. "I want you to know that's not flattery. That's just true." Something moved in her chest that she did not examine. "I'm not going to hurt you," Cole said. He switched to Standard Galactic Common, probably assuming her comprehension was stronger there. "I know you don't believe that. I know what your briefings say about us. I've read Velhari field doctrine. I know what you were told would happen when you got caught." Zaravel felt her secondary eyelids close halfway. A Velhari reflex, like bracing. "I'm also not going to ask you for anything tonight," he said. "You've been awake for 30 hours based on our entry logs. You're going to be in pain from the pod landing, and you haven't eaten." He stood up, slowly, hands visible the whole time, the way someone moves when they're trying very hard to be legible. "I'm going to get you something to eat. The restraints stay on for now, that's non-negotiable. But I'll loosen the left one because the pressure point it's hitting on your secondary wrist joint is medically unnecessary, and I know it." He knew about Velhari's secondary wrist joints. She felt the slope under her feet again, the not-quite fear. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. The words came out before she chose them. Cole stopped at the door. He turned back, and his expression was not triumphant the way she expected. It was not the look of someone who had won something, and it was something harder to classify. "Because you're a person," he said, "and that's enough of a reason." He left. The door did not slam. It closed the way a careful person closes a door when someone in the next room might be sleeping. Zaravel sat in the metal room with her restraints and her training and 3 years of doctrine telling her exactly what humans were. And she listened to the silence he had left behind. It was the loudest silence she had ever heard. Outside, through the wall, she could hear the distant hum of a ship running at cruise speed. She was somewhere in human-controlled space. She had no allies within range. Her mission had failed. By every measurable parameter, her situation was the worst it had ever been. Cole came back 7 minutes later with food she didn't recognize, and water and a small medical device he used on her left wrist without asking permission, which somehow felt less like a violation and more like someone correcting a mistake they personally found unacceptable. He sat back down across from her. She ate. She did not know why. He watched the wall the way he had watched her earlier, like the wall was also something worth paying attention to. "You're going to try to escape?" he said. Not accusatory, just noting a fact. "Yes," she said. "Okay," Cole said. She looked at him. He looked at her. "I'd do the same." That was the first night. It would not be the last. By the third day, Zaravel had cataloged 41 potential escape vectors and dismissed 39 of them. The first she dismissed because the ventilation system, while large enough for a Velhari body, cycled with pressure differentials that would break both her secondary elbows on the first junction. The second she dismissed because it required access to a keycard held by a human called Priya, who had visited once to take biometric readings and had the focused, unhurried energy of someone who did not make mistakes. The remaining 37 she dismissed for variations of similar reasons. That left 2. Neither was clean. Both would almost certainly result in her being caught within minutes of attempting them. But she was Velhari intelligence, and clean escape was a luxury, not a requirement. What was stopping her was not the odds. What was stopping her was Cole, not in the way she wanted to admit. Not because she trusted him, which she did not, and not because the food had been good, which it had been, and not because he had spent 40 minutes on the second day explaining to her, unprompted, the exact function and layout of the ship's medical bay, because she had a developing infection in her secondary wrist, and he felt she had a right to know what was being done to her body and why. What was stopping her was that she did not understand him, and Zaravel did not act on incomplete intelligence. She watched him the way she had been trained to watch targets. The problem was that Cole did not behave like a target. He behaved like a person who had already decided something and was simply waiting for the situation to catch up to that decision. On the 4th day, he brought her a tablet, loaded with books. Velhari language texts she had not seen since her secondary education. alongside human literature that had apparently been translated into Velhari by an academic at a university on a planet called New Providence. She did not touch the tablet for 6 hours. Then she picked it up. She told herself it was reconnaissance. On the 5th day, 2 other humans came to the room. Not Cole. A woman named Diana, who introduced herself as the ship's intelligence officer, and a man named Greg, who said nothing and stood near the door with the professional blankness of someone paid to observe. Diana sat down where Cole usually sat. "You had access to 11 Delta's third-tier data architecture," Diana said. Her Velhari was better than Cole's, sharper, more precise. "That's not a grunt-level assignment. You're not standard field operative." Zaravel said nothing. "We're not asking you to give up your command structure," Diana said. "We're not asking you to compromise your unit. We want to know about the relay system itself. Specifically, a secondary encryption layer that shouldn't exist under the current treaty framework, but does. And we think someone put it there who isn't Velhari and isn't human." She paused. "We think something else is in this conflict. Something neither of us knows about. And if we're right, that's a problem for both our species." It was the kind of pitch that was designed to seem reasonable. And it was also, Zaravel noted with cold clarity, exactly the kind of pitch that might actually be true. "Where is Cole?" Zaravel asked. Diana blinked. "Excuse me?" "Cole, the human who has been assigned to this room. Where is he?" Diana and Greg exchanged a look that humans probably thought was subtle. "He's been reassigned to other duties today," Diana said. "Bring him back," Zaravel said, "and I will consider listening to what you have to say." Diana left. Greg stayed by the door, us professionally blank. Cole came back 20 minutes later. He came in, looked at Zaravel, looked at Greg, and pulled his chair to its usual position. "You asked for me," he said. Not a question. "They want information," Zaravel said. "I know." "They sent you away first?" "I know that too." He was quiet for a moment. "I didn't agree with it." Zaravel studied him. "Why?" "Because it's manipulative," Cole said. "And manipulation is a short-term tool. I'm not interested in short-term." The slope again, that sideways tilted thing that wasn't quite fear. "What are you interested in?" she asked. Cole looked at the wall for a moment, then back at her. "Figuring out if we're both being played," he said. "And if we are, figuring out by who." Zaravel turned Diana's pitch over in her mind. The secondary encryption layer. The thing in the conflict that was neither human nor Velhari. She had seen anomalies in the relay data herself during her extraction attempt. She had flagged them internally and continued her mission, because that was what she had been trained to do. "Show me a star map," she said. Cole pulled out his screen without hesitation. He turned it toward her. She looked at the Cassini Belt region, the relay station positions, the traffic corridors. She pointed to a region 3 systems out from 11 Delta. "There," she said. "Something has been redirecting low-frequency signal traffic through that corridor for approximately 4 months. I thought it was a Velhari operation I wasn't cleared for." She paused. "It isn't Velhari." Cole stared at the map. His jaw tightened in a way she had learned to read, as him processing something he didn't like. "You're certain?" he said. "No," she said. "But I am certain enough to tell you." She watched him absorb the fact that she had just voluntarily handed him intelligence. And she watched him not celebrate it, not write anything down, not call for Diana. She watched him sit with it, like a problem that now belonged to both of them. "Why are you telling me?" he asked. It was the same question she had asked him on the first night. She recognized the symmetry. She suspected he did too. "Because you're a person," she said. "And that's enough of a reason." Something moved across Cole's face that Zaravel did not have a word for in either language. When he looked down at the map for a long moment. "Okay," he said. "So we have a problem." "We have a problem," she agreed. The door was still locked. The restraints were still on. She was still a prisoner, and he was still her captor. And outside the ship, the low-frequency signal corridor was still routing something through 3 systems that neither of them had clearance to understand. Cole started pulling up additional data. Zaravel leaned forward as far as her restraints allowed. Like they worked through the night without either of them suggesting they stop. By the 7th day, Zaravel's restraints had been removed. Not officially. Cole had not produced paperwork or argued her case through channels. He had simply come in that morning, looked at her wrists where the polymer had started leaving permanent marks, and taken them off. He had set the restraint hardware on the table between them like a fact he was done pretending was necessary. "If you run," he said, "I lose my position on this ship and possibly my freedom." "I know," she said. "Okay," he said. She did not run. The signal corridor they had identified was now at the center of something much larger than a prisoner exchange. Cole had taken their joint findings to the ship's captain, a woman named Lords, who had the compressed, deliberate energy of someone who had been making hard decisions for so long she no longer noticed the weight of them. And Lords had listened to Cole for 11 minutes without interrupting, which Zaravel was told later was an extraordinarily long time. Then Lords had made a call to Fleet Command. Then Fleet Command had patched in someone else. Then 2 additional ships had changed course. Zaravel was aware of all this because Cole told her. He told her without being asked. He came in after each development and laid it out for her in plain language, the way you brief a partner, not a prisoner. She was aware that this might be a technique. She was also aware that if it was a technique, it was working, and she had stopped being troubled by that distinction somewhere around day 5. What troubled her now was the data itself. The signal corridor was not a Velhari operation, and it was not a human operation. And by the end of the 7th day, she and Cole had enough fragmentary evidence to build a working hypothesis about what it actually was. The hypothesis was not comfortable. It was the kind of hypothesis that, if correct, meant that 3 years of conflict between 2 species had been engineered by something neither species had ever formally identified. Not an accident, not a misunderstanding, not the ordinary friction of 2 expanding civilizations meeting at a contested border. Engineered. Someone had wanted them fighting. Someone had built the conditions for it and then stepped back and watched. "Your command," Cole said, sitting across from her with both their notes spread across the table between them. What was their justification for the initial conflict? The Orion 7 incident. How was it framed to Velhari forces? Zaravel considered how much to say. She had been considering that question for 3 days, answering it in pieces, each piece a small commitment to a direction she had not formally chosen. "Human vessels fired on a Velhari science platform," she said. "Without provocation, 17 researchers died. The platform was conducting atmospheric studies on a non-contested world." Cole nodded slowly. "On our side, a Velhari military cruiser fired on a colony transport carrying 800 civilians. 43 dead. The vessel had a medical designation and was in clearly marked neutral space." They looked at each other. "Neither of those events was us," Zaravel said. "No," Cole said. "I don't think they were." She had known this, intellectually, for 2 days. and knowing it and sitting with it were different things. She sat with it now and felt the ground under 3 years of her life shift in a way that had no clean, emotional name. The war she had served in, the mission she had been on when captured, the colleagues she had lost. All of it built on events that had been manufactured by something that was not human and not Velhari, and that had, for reasons she could not yet determine, needed them broken against each other. "Are you all right?" Cole asked. Zaravel looked at him. "No," she said. It was not a word she would have used a week ago. "Yeah," he said. "Me either." He got up and made tea. It was a human thing, making tea, and he had started doing it in her presence around day 4. He made 2 cups without asking and put one in front of her. She drank it. She did not know why, and she had stopped pretending she needed a reason. Outside the door, the ship was alive with controlled urgency. She could hear it in the foot traffic patterns, the slight change in the ventilation cycling that indicated elevated crew activity, the occasional short exchange of voices that stopped as quickly as it started. Lords was moving her ship toward the signal corridor. They were going to look at the thing they had found. Diana knocked and entered. She looked at the removed restraints and at Cole with an expression that was complicated in multiple directions. "Command has confirmed," Diana said. "Asara, the signal architecture does not match any known technology in either the Velhari or human catalogs. They want the prisoner's active cooperation formalized." She paused on the word prisoner, like she wasn't sure it still applied. "They want to know if she'll assist with the approach to the signal corridor." Cole looked at Zaravel. Zaravel looked at Diana. "I have conditions," she said. Diana's chin came up slightly. "Understood. Mun, what are they?" "My Velhari command is told that I am alive and not compromised. That communication goes out today." She paused. "And Cole remains my point of contact for the duration of this operation. Not a rotating roster of intelligence staff. Him." Diana looked at Cole again. Cole had not moved his expression in any direction. "I'll take that to the captain," Diana said. She left. "You didn't have to do that," Cole said. "Insist on me." "I know," Zaravel said. He picked up his tea. "Why did you?" She turned her cup in her hands. "Because you have not once lied to me," she said. "I have no proof of that. But I have no contradicting evidence either. And in the absence of contradicting evidence, I am choosing to act on the data I have." Cole looked at her for a moment. "That's the most tactical way anyone has ever said they trusted me." "I am Velhari intelligence," she said. "It is how we express most things." The corner of his mouth moved. Not a full smile, but the shape of one. Lords gave formal approval an hour later. The communication to Velhari Command went out. Zaravel received no response, which meant either that the message was being evaluated at high levels or that she had been formally marked as compromised and her communications were being blocked. She decided to proceed as though it was the former. Cole spread the star charts across the table for the 3rd time that day. The signal corridor glowed faintly on the display, on 3 systems wide, pointing toward a region of space that neither the Velhari nor the human catalogs had much to say about. "Whatever built this," Cole said, "is patient." "Yes," Zaravel said. "Patient means it's been doing this for a long time." "Yes." "Which means we are probably not the first species it has done this to." She had reached that conclusion herself 2 days ago. She had not said it aloud because saying it aloud made it a different kind of real. "No," she said. And we are probably not the first. Cole was quiet. Then, well, yes, Zaravel said. Well. The ship accelerated into the dark. The signal corridor ended at a moon. Not a remarkable moon. No atmosphere worth measuring, no significant mineral signature, nothing that would draw a survey vessel or a military patrol. It orbited a gas giant 3 systems outside any mapped territory, which meant it had been passed over by every catalog because there was nothing there to want. Except there was. Lords brought the ship out of approach speed at a distance that her tactical officer, a young man named Dion, who looked like he had not slept in 2 days, confirmed was outside any standard weapons range. Then she brought it to a stop, and everyone looked at the sensors. The structure on the moon's surface was not large. That was the first thing Zaravel noted. It was built into a natural crater formation with enough geometric precision to be clearly artificial, and enough surface material overlap to have evaded basic orbital scans for what the geological dating was suggesting. Yergalbis was somewhere between 60 and 80 years. 80 years. 3 years of conflict between 2 species, and this thing had been sitting here for 80. It's a relay hub, Cole said. He was standing next to Zaravel at the sensor display, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his arm. She had been noticing human warmth since day 3. They ran several degrees hotter than Velhari baseline. In the cold of the ship's interior, she found it difficult not to notice. Not just a signal router. This is the source. This is where the traffic is being generated and distributed. Dion pulled up the emission analysis. It's active, he said. Low power, but active. And it's been emitting since before we arrived. It knows we're here, Zaravel said. The room was quiet in the way rooms go quiet when a truth lands that everyone already suspected, but nobody wanted to confirm. Lord stood at the center of the bridge with her hands behind her back. Any life signs? Negative, Dion said. No heat signature inside the structure, no movement. Automated, Cole said. Yes, Zaravel said. Automated. This is not a crew. This is a machine that was placed here and left to run. Left by who? Diana asked from across the room. Nobody answered, because the answer was the same uncomfortable hypothesis they had all been circling for 48 hours. Something that was not here anymore. Something that had built a machine to keep 2 species at each other's throats and then gone elsewhere, or gone dark, or simply trusted the machine to run without supervision, because machines, unlike crews, do not get tired or doubtful or curious about the thing in the crater that is emitting signals. Lords turned to Zaravel. Can you identify the signal architecture? Does it match anything in Velhari records? Zaravel had already been running that analysis in her head for an hour. Partially, she said carefully. The base transmission encoding shares structural elements with a signal type that Velhari archaeology documented approximately 200 years ago, and it was found in a dead system near the edge of the Velhari original territory. The source was never located. 200 years, Cole said. Yes. And it was already old when they found it. The dating suggested several hundred years of operation before discovery. The signals simply stopped one day. No explanation. She paused. It did not occur to anyone that it might have moved. Lords absorbed this without visible reaction. Options, she said. Not a question. I should destroy the structure, Diana said. Neutralize the source. End the signal manipulation. That tells us nothing about what built it or why, Cole said. Or whether there are others. Others, Dion said. and his voice carried the weight of someone who had just thought of something he did not want to think. "If this architecture has been operational for centuries," Zaravel said, "and if it was placed by something with enough patience to engineer conflicts across multiple generations, then probability suggests that this is not the only installation." She looked at the display. "This may not even be the primary one. This may be one node in a network." The room absorbed that. Lords made a decision in the clean, unhesitating way that made Zaravel understand exactly how she had gotten command of a vessel like this. "We don't destroy it," Lord said. "We take it apart carefully, and we document everything. Every component, every signal log, and every frequency it has ever used." She looked at Diana. "I want a full intelligence package that we can take back to both commands." "Both commands," Diana said. "We are sharing this with the Velhari," Lord said. "This is not a human problem. This is not a Velhari problem. And if we treat it like one, we are doing exactly what this thing was designed to make us do." Zaravel looked at Lords. Lords met her eyes with the direct, uncomplicated steadiness of someone who had already done the calculus on where self-interest ended and survival began. "You have our full cooperation," Zaravel said. Cole exhaled beside her. She recognized it as the sound of a person releasing a tension they had been holding long enough that they had stopped noticing it. The away team went down in 2 shifts. Cole was on the first. Zaravel asked to go, and Lords had looked at her for a moment before nodding once. So Zaravel went down to the moon's surface in a borrowed environment suit that was 2 sizes too large, and walked across gray rock toward a crater that held 80 years of manufactured war. Up close, the structure was beautiful in the cold way. That very old, very precise things are beautiful. Not built for anyone to see. Built to last. The materials were unfamiliar in specific ways, familiar in others. She crouched near an exposed panel component and studied the alloy composition. "To recognize it?" Cole asked. He was beside her, his breath fogging the inside of his visor. "The substrate metal. Yes, it appears in some Velhari deep space archaeological records. We called it ghost alloy because we found traces in places where no known civilization had been." She paused. We did not look hard enough at what that meant. Cole crouched next to her. Their shoulders touched through the suits. He did not move away. She did not either. "Nice, we're going to have to show this to people," he said. "On both sides. People who have lost someone in this conflict. People who are going to need to completely reframe 3 years of grief and anger." "Yes," she said. "That's going to be hard." "Yes." He looked at the structure. "But it's the right thing to do." She had been hearing humans use that phrase all week. The right thing. Cole used it without apparent irony or performance. Like it was a simple directional marker, not a morality claim. Like right was just the name of a navigable heading. She was beginning to understand why she found it difficult to dismiss. The documentation team worked for 6 hours. They pulled signal logs that went back decades. They found in those logs the exact transmission patterns that had been used to seed misinformation into both Velhari and human intelligence channels. They found the manufactured evidence of Orion 7. They found records of 17 other incidents, smaller, an earlier, each one a careful tap on a bruise to keep it from healing. Dion, sitting in the structure's signal room with a portable analysis unit, found something else. "There are outbound logs," he said. His voice was flat. "This thing has been reporting. Somewhere. Something has been receiving status updates from this installation for 80 years. Cole looked at the coordinates attached to the outbound signal direction. Zaravel looked at them too. And the direction pointed into a region so far outside mapped space that neither civilization had ever sent a probe there. "It knows we found it," Zaravel said. "Yes," Cole said. "Whatever it reports to," she said. "It now knows that we found this, and that we did not destroy it, and that a human and a Velhari were standing in its signal room together." Cole stared at the coordinates on the screen for a long moment. "Good," he said. She looked at him. "Good. Let it report that," he said. "Mart, let whatever is out there know exactly what it's dealing with." The joint summit took place 6 weeks later on a station called Meridian Point that sat exactly on the boundary line between human-controlled and Velhari-controlled space. Zaravel had not expected to attend. She was intelligence personnel, a former prisoner, and her status within Velhari Command had been technically unresolved since the moment Lords had sent the cooperation request through official channels. The Velhari High Command silence had stretched for 2 weeks before breaking into something that was not quite approval, not quite censure, but landed somewhere in the complicated territory between them. Then the documentation package arrived in Velhari hands. All of it. The signal logs, the manufactured incidents, the ghost alloy analysis, the outbound coordinates. The full record of 80 years of careful manipulation. The silence from Velhari High Command lasted 4 more days, and then they sent a formal delegation to Meridian Point and included Zaravel in the party by name. She arrived at the station aboard a Velhari transport and walked through a corridor that intersected with a human section. And the first person she saw on the human side was Cole. He was standing at the junction point in a formal uniform she had never seen him wear, looking slightly uncomfortable in the way that people who are used to doing work look slightly uncomfortable when required to represent that work in a ceremonial context. He saw her, and something in his posture eased. "You came," he said. "You seem surprised," she said. "I'm not surprised," he said. "I just wanted it to be true badly enough that I kept hedging." She understood that feeling. She had been doing the same thing for 6 weeks. The summit itself lasted 3 days. Zaravel presented the technical analysis of the signal architecture on the first day. A Velhari admiral named Sorath presented the archaeological cross-references on the second. A human scientist named Felicia presented the alloy composition findings and their implications for the age and origin of whatever had built the installation. On the third day, both sides formally agreed that the Orion 7 incident and all 16 subsequent trigger events had been manufactured. The agreement was documented and signed by both delegations. The legal and strategic implications of that agreement would take years to fully work through. The human and Velhari delegations both understood this. They signed it anyway. Lords was in the room when it was signed. She caught Zaravel's eye across the chamber and nodded once, which Zaravel had learned was the highest register of acknowledgement that Lords typically deployed. Cole was not in the signing chamber. He was in a small adjacent room that had been designated as a coordination space, surrounded by documentation and 2 analysts and a cold cup of tea. Zaravel found him there when the formal session broke. "It's done," she said from the doorway. He looked up. He looked like someone who had been awake for a long time and had stopped counting the hours. "Yeah." Signed by both delegations. He let out a breath. Not theatrical. Just real. The sound of pressure releasing. She came into the room and sat across from him at the table. The same configuration as the metal room on his ship, the same distance, entirely different stakes. "What happens to you now?" she asked. Cole picked up his cold tea, looked at it, put it down. Formally? Commendation. Probably a reassignment, a lot of meetings with people who want to understand exactly what happened and in what order. He paused. Unofficially. I have no idea. This changes a lot of the strategic framework we've been operating under. That's going to take a while to settle. And the outbound signal coordinates, she said. The direction the installation was reporting to. Both fleets are looking at it, he said. Nothing confirmed yet? Then the signal propagation time means we won't know if our presence at the installation was reported for another few weeks. But it will be reported. Yes. And then something out there will know that we know. Yes. She considered that. Our two species have been in low-grade conflict for 3 years. We have significant mistrust on both sides. We have institutional damage, resource depletion, political frameworks built around the assumption that we are adversaries. She paused. We are in a poor position to face something that has been patient enough to manipulate us for decades. You're not wrong, Cole said. I am frequently not wrong, she said. It is occasionally inconvenient. The corner of his mouth moved. She had learned to look for that. The argument you're building toward, he said, is that we need a formalized joint intelligence framework. Yes. With ongoing cooperation rather than a single summit agreement. Yes. Structured enough to survive political changes on both sides. Yes. He picked up the cold tea again, and this time drank it, which she had learned he did when he was making a decision rather than just thinking about one. I'd need to pitch that to command, he said. They'll want to know the Velhari counterpart. That would be me, Zaravel said. Then he looked at her. I have been offered a senior analytical position effective upon my return, she said. It carries sufficient authority to authorize joint operational agreements within defined parameters. I have accepted it on the condition that I retain operational flexibility in my methodologies. Flexibility meaning you make calls based on your own judgment. Yes. Like talking to the human who was supposed to be your interrogator. That produced significant results, she said. It did, he agreed. He set down the tea and looked at her across the table. The same table configuration. The same distance. 17 days since a metal room on a ship moving through dark space, and the distance between them had not changed in centimeters, and had changed completely in every other measurable way. Zaravel, he said. Cole, she said. When this gets formally structured, he said, we're going to be colleagues. Probably for a long time. Yes, she said. And that's going to involve a lot of trust. We have demonstrated an operational basis for that, she said. He nodded slowly. We have. I would also note, she said carefully, that the tea on your ship was better than anything I've consumed at this station for 3 days. Cole looked at her. She watched him work through what she had and had not said. That's the most tactical compliment I've ever received, he said. I am Velhari intelligence, she said. It is how we express most things. This time, it was not just the corner of his mouth. It was the whole of his expression, opening the way windows open on a pressurized ship. Steady and controlled and changing the atmosphere of the room anyway. We're going to figure out what's out there, he said. Yes, she said, and we're going to do it together. That is the logical conclusion of all available data, she said. Outside the station's viewports, the boundary line between two civilizations ran through empty space. It was not a line anymore, technically. It would not be formally renegotiated for months. But it had shifted, in the way that real things shift before the paperwork catches up. Somewhere in the dark, in a direction neither fleet had yet sent a probe, something old, impatient, and very far away had received a status update. It would have to wait for the reply.